quiet halls of an elementary school in Terre Haute, no one expected a viral sensation to be sweeping the floors, literally. Richard Goodall, a longtime janitor, spent his days mopping floors and tidying classrooms. But after hours, something extraordinary echoed through those same halls. Music. It wasn't staged. There was no spotlight, just a cell phone camera, a spontaneous moment, and a voice that left thousands stunned. A student casually recorded Richard singing while working, an unfiltered, emotional rendition that quickly made its way to TikTok. Within days, views exploded. What began as a routine moment in a school corridor turned into a viral revelation. Richard wasn't looking for fame, but as the clip gained momentum, it became clear. This wasn't just a janitor with a good voice. This was a hidden talent the world had nearly overlooked. While Richard Goodall's soulful voice captured hearts across TikTok, not every reaction was kind. One comment posted by a viewer named Brian Temple called the newfound attention so annoying, implying that Richard was acting like a superstar. But instead of lashing out, Richard responded with a grace that disarmed critics and touched supporters alike. "Nor do I act like I am," he wrote. "But can't you give a person their one night of feeling like a rock star? Just once?" It was a moment that perfectly reflected the character behind the voice. In a world where viral fame often brings inflated egos, Richard offered humility. He reminded viewers that this moment wasn't about celebrity, it was about feeling seen, even if just for a night. "I'm just a janitor," he added. The comment thread turned quickly. What began as criticism became a chorus of support. Richard's words resonated beyond the screen, turning online noise into something much more powerful: empathy. While some assumed Richard Goodall's vocal control came from years of training, the truth was far more raw and revealing. A TikTok user known as Mr. Pedro commented on one of Richard's videos, complimenting his impressive vocal technique. But Richard's response surprised many. "I never had a vocal coach. Duh," he wrote with a hint of humor. "I just sat up in my room with my Radio Shack stereo and screamed all of my favorite songs." There were no studio sessions, no expensive lessons, just passion, persistence, and a secondhand stereo. It was in that modest room, without guidance or glamour, that Richard's voice took shape. His method wasn't traditional, but it was his own. That's what struck a chord with viewers. This wasn't talent handed down through privilege. It was earned, scratched out note by note, lyric by lyric in solitude. In an era of auto-tune and filters, Richard's voice stood out because it was untouched, real, a product of decades of love for music, not industry polish. As Richard Goodall's videos continued to spread, fans flocked to the comments, eager to hear more. One user, simply known as Milk, asked the question on everyone's mind: "Do you have a YouTube channel or anything with more music?" Richard's reply was honest and a little heartbreaking. "I do have a YouTube channel, but nothing on it. I'm too busy on here on TikTok. Thank you." It was a sobering reality check for his growing audience. Despite the attention, despite the admiration, Richard was still working full-time as a school janitor. He didn't have the time or the means to produce long-form content or build out a digital presence. Many fans were surprised to find that his only online footprint was a handful of TikTok videos. There were no polished studio sessions, no professional uploads, just bits and pieces of brilliance shared between shifts. In a world where some chase virality with marketing teams and production crews, Richard remained deeply rooted in real life, still mopping floors, still waiting for a break. The magic of Richard Goodall's voice didn't stop at the US border. Comments poured in from around the world, including one fan in Ireland who wrote with joy and hope. Brilliant and well-deserved. Love it from Ireland. They weren't just offering praise. They wanted to see him live, performing on stage in their hometown. But Richard's response brought a quiet pause. "Thank you from the US. If I had the money, I'd love to visit Ireland. Could you show me around?" A light-hearted reply, yes, but one that exposed a deeper truth. For Richard, even the dream of performing abroad felt distant. Financial constraints, the day job, and the responsibilities of daily life were barriers no viral video could instantly erase. For many, his words hit hard. Here was a man with a gift powerful enough to move millions, yet grounded by the cost of a plane ticket. In an industry that often elevates flash over heart, Richard's story was different. His dreams, though burning bright, were being held back by reality. The question came from Julie Spears, a fan who had just discovered Richard Goodall through one of his emotional TikTok performances. Her reaction was immediate and shared by thousands. "Still don't understand why you aren't famous yet. Awesome job." It was a sentiment echoing across comment sections and fan forums alike. How could someone with so much soul, so much authenticity, not be standing on the biggest stages in the world? Richard's reply was a mix of realism and quiet hope. Sometimes things just take time, and sometimes they don't happen at all. But things are moving. I'm just not allowed to speak about it. That final line stopped many in their tracks. Was there something happening behind the scenes? A record deal? A show appearance? A hint of something big, perhaps? Fans were quick to speculate, but Richard didn't elaborate. What he offered instead was a simple reminder of the brutal unpredictability of the entertainment industry. Talent alone isn't always enough. Timing, opportunity, and luck often play a bigger role than most realize. Still, Richard's cryptic comments sparked a wave of optimism. It was a moment some fans had envisioned long before it happened. Months prior, a user asked Richard a simple question under one of his TikToks. "Where's the golden buzzer?" Richard playfully responded, "Yes, please." At the time, it seemed like a dream, distant, unlikely, and maybe even out of reach. But then in May 2024, the dream became reality. Standing on the America's Got Talent stage, Richard poured his heart into a performance that left the judges speechless and the audience in tears. And then it happened. Heidi Klum pressed the golden buzzer, showering Richard in confetti and launching his story into the national spotlight. Fans erupted online. One returned to that original comment thread, simply writing, "Just wanted to come back to this. So proud." The foreshadowing is crazy. It was a full circle moment that felt more like a movie than real life. The janitor who once sang down school hallways was now standing center stage in front of millions, finally receiving the recognition so many believed he deserved. For Richard's supporters, it wasn't just a victory, it was validation. Even as his face appeared on national television, Richard Goodall never stopped being who he was, a janitor with a microphone in one hand and a mop in the other. When a fan commented, "I have a feeling you won't be a janitor much longer," Richard replied with simple honesty. "I'm still waiting, but I'm used to it. I'm just having fun." Behind the viral videos and golden confetti, Richard remained grounded. For over 20 years, he had been singing for the students at his school, not for likes or views, but because it brought them joy. In one post, he noted that it was a young student who secretly filmed him and posted it to TikTok. That act, innocent and spontaneous, unlocked everything that came next. Another fan confessed that his singing made them cry uncontrollably, happy tears. "That's the best part," Richard responded. "Music has a way of connecting us all. It's this connection that defines him, not just his voice, but his ability to make people feel something real." In a world filled with polished performances, Richard's spontaneity, his rawness, became his signature. And during times when the world feels chaotic and unpredictable, seeing someone do what they love, without pretension or ego, struck a deep chord with audiences. With the golden buzzer now behind him, Richard Goodall faces a new chapter, a chance to compete on one of the world's biggest stages. But unlike most contestants, Richard won't have a manager, an entourage, or industry support flying in behind him. When he traveled for his first America's Got Talent performance, he did it alone, on his very first flight. Now, as he prepares for the next round, fans are rallying to make sure he doesn't have to go it solo. A GoFundMe campaign launched by a supporter named Chris Bond is raising funds to help cover the costs not included in the show's accommodations, things like meals, local transport, and most importantly, bringing his family along for emotional support. Let's give Terre Haute, Indiana's AGT Golden Buzzer winner, our support. The campaign reads, "Your generosity will allow him to have a worry-free experience and whatever else he might need." It's a powerful reminder that even after the cameras stop rolling, life continues. Fame can open doors, but it doesn't pay for everything. Richard's story has never been about glamour. It's been about grit. And now, as he faces one of the most important moments of his life, The community that believed in him first is being called to help carry him forward.